But I was also thinking sometime during his midlife, he goes on a Bilbo-like adventure.
Okay.
Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbits.
Yeah.
Something that's always struck me about that story is that Bilbo tells the tales from that journey for decades and decades after the fact. But really it was just 1 year that he was gone for. I think it was 1 year. And there weren't that many different encounters he had. It was like he saw the trolls, he saw Gollum, there were the wolves, and there was the dragon. But it's like really there was only like 5 or 6 different stories he could tell. But it's the way that some lives, or maybe most lives, or many lives, really they're punctuated by 1 or maybe 2 adventures. Right? And it sounds really like a kind of demoralizing thing to say, but I don't think it is. It's just that almost always there's kind of a contrast between everyday life and your Bilbo quest, which doesn't make the everyday life less valuable is kind of the point I was getting at. Like when you have a day and you have the day marked for weeks ahead of time because this is the day you have a big ceremony or you're getting an award or it's a big dance or whatever. Like there's a day that's marked really by one big thing. It doesn't make the rest of the day nothingness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was trying to get at here. I was thinking maybe he goes and is recruited to help work on the new hanging gardens.
Okay.
For one of the Solacene wonders of the world.
Yeah. Cool. Perhaps his short film reaches the right people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking maybe he has a little bit of a midlife crisis, or do you think that's not a Solacene concept at all?
No, maybe not calling it a crisis, but as I said at the beginning, we often think our lives have to be one thing, and Gustav perhaps thought he was defined by his gardens.
Yeah.
But midlife, he realizes, I've done what I can with the gardens.
His kids are aging.
Yeah.
Cynthia, well, the less said about her, maybe, the better. No, but maybe it was a little bit inspired by the idea of the quarter life crisis. Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a valid crisis to have? And in the Solacene,
well, I'm knocking on it, so yeah.
You're knocking on the quarter life crisis?
Yeah.
What I was kind of reflecting on my own mini quarter life crisis, because I think 25 is like quarter life, or 20 to 25. I guess the midlife crisis is characterized by this fear of death, and people often, I think, ascribe it to men. It's like this fear of like you're losing your virile masculinity or something like that. And I think the quarter life crisis is this fear of like it's close to a fear of death, but it's more like a fear of not having lived yet.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really, really associated with digital lives. And when you're like, oh, that was 10 years ago, I'm too young to be forgetting time like this and to not have strong memories. So I think Gustav, he's raised properly and he's raised screenless, so he might not have this. But maybe for his midlife crisis, he chooses a new profession, gets into teaching, goes back to school, gets a new degree or something like that. But also, maybe he writes a bucket list. Is that a Solacene concept, a bucket list? Or does he live too much in the moment for that kind of thing?
I don't picture Gustav having a bucket list.
I just think he needs to somehow be a bit more familiar with death.
Okay.
Like maybe he or aging. Maybe he needs to make peace with that a little bit more. Like maybe he starts going to a hospital or something, or going to a retirement home periodically. Okay. Maybe his mum is in a retirement home and he starts visiting her properly. Yeah. He starts talking about the art because he's discovering the art that she's always been in love with, but he's like, remember this piece? And in doing so, he is, I think squaring the circle is the phrase, about like uniting his youth and his career and what's to come for all of us. Death.
That's an interesting way of putting the essence of the midlife crisis.
Yeah.
So I see that likely is a part of every person's experience then.
Yeah, I don't think it's just like he's going to go out and buy a new car or whatever. It's not that. It's kind of a reckoning about aging and death, mortality.
But he does go out and buy a tandem bike as well.
Tandem bike? Him and Cynthia?
And Cynthia.
That's how they fix their marriage?
Yeah.